Hello, dear pupils. Welcome to the House of Knowledge. My name is Usinjan Mejidic. I am an English teacher and I am very glad to help you with improving your language skills. We have received questions on the topics of the video lessons you watched, so our webinar includes answers to the most common questions. The topics of our webinar are Madame Tussauds Museum and music. Madame Tussauds is a famous wax museum in London, with branches in a number of major cities. It was founded by wax sculptor Anne-Marie Tussaud. Marie Tussaud was born as Mary Grosholt in 1761 in Strasbourg, France. Her mother worked as a housekeeper for Dr. Philip Curtis in Bern, Switzerland, who was a physician skilled in wax modeling. Curtis taught Tussaud the art of wax modeling. Young Mary's first sculpture was Francois Voltaire. She made it at the tender age of 16. Tussaud was perceived as a royal sympathizer, and during the French Revolution she was imprisoned for 3 months awaiting execution, but was released after the intervention of an influential friend. She inherited the doctor's vast collection of wax models following his death in 1796, and spent the next 33 years traveling around Europe. By 1835, Mary had settled down in Baker Street, London, and opened a museum. Ever since it first opened on 1835, Madame Tussauds has been leaving visitors excited and starstruck with the wide array of A-list celebrities featured in the Wax Museum. With 14 interactive areas, Madame Tussauds London combines glitz, glamour, and incredible history with more than 300 stunning wax figures. Today's wax figures at Tussauds include historical and royal figures, film stars, sports stars, and famous murderers. Some sculptures still exist that were done by Marie Tussaud herself. The gallery originally contained some 400 different figures, but fire damage in 1925, coupled with German bombs in 1941, has rendered most of these older models defunct. The casts themselves have survived, allowing the historical waxworkers to be made, and these can be seen in the museum's history exhibit. You can see Madame Tussauds in her own museum. She did her own portrait in wax just 8 years till she died, at the ripe rather old age of 89. The oldest figure on display is that of Madame du Barry, the work of Courtois from 1765, and part of the wax works left to Tussaud at his death. At 4.8 meters (14.7 feet) high, the Incredible Hulk is the largest ever figure made by Madame Tussauds. The smallest figure Tussaud has ever made is Tinker Bell. Mother Teresa declined to get sculpted for the museum as she believed that her work was more important than her physical being, one of the only persons to ever do so. In July 2008, Madame Tussauds Berlin branch became embroiled in controversy when a 41-year-old German man brushed past 2 guards and decapitated a wax figure depicting Adolf Hitler. In January 2016, the statue of Adolf Hitler was removed from the London Museum in response to an open letter sent by a staff writer of the Jewish Journal of Greater Los Angeles, followed by significant support for its removal from social media. In 2010, Ozzy Osbourne posed as himself and scared unsuspecting visitors. The figure-making process for Madame Tussauds is about 4 months long, and each figure costs about 300,000 to produce start to finish. More than 250 precise measurements and 880 photographs are taken of a subject to accurately create the figure. If the subject is unavailable for these measurements, the studio artists study hundreds of photographs and watch hours of video to create the figure. All wax figures are made 2% larger than the actual person, because this much is how the wax is expected to melt during the entire process. Each strand of hair is inserted individually. It takes approximately 5 weeks to complete. There are approximately 100,000 hairs on each head. Red silk thread is used to create the veins in each eyeball. Knotted rope is used to create the look of veins on the body. All figures have their hair washed and makeup retouched regularly. Madame Tussauds Wax Museum is a major tourist attraction in London. The first overseas branch of Madame Tussauds was opened in Amsterdam in 1970. Since opening its doors in 2000, Madame Tussauds New York has quickly become one of the most popular Madame Tussauds locations in the world. There are currently 24 Madame Tussauds worldwide, including 7 in the USA, and museums in Beijing, Tokyo, and Sydney, Australia. It used to be known as Madame Tussauds. The apostrophe is no longer used. Madame Tussauds is owned by a leisure company called Merlin Entertainments, following the acquisition of the Tussauds Group in May 2007. In Alfred Hitchcock's The 39 Steps, Mr. Haney tells Pamela that his uncle is featured in Madame Tussauds' murder section, and that one day she will be able to take her grandchildren to Madame Tussauds to see him. Madame Tussauds is featured in an Assassin's Creed Unity side mission, where the player is tasked with retrieving the several heads of which Madame Tussauds was commissioned to make replicas. Well, as for the second topic of our webinar, music, I'm sure we can talk about it for a very long time, but we will speak only about history of music, because most common question is, when did music appear? So music is found in every known culture and religion, past and present, varying widely between times and places. Since all people of the world, including the most isolated tribal groups, have a form of music, it may be concluded that music is likely to have been present in the orchestral population prior to the dispersal of humans around the world. Consequently, the first music may have been invented in Africa and then evolved to become a fundamental constituent of human life. A culture's music is influenced by all other aspects of that culture, including social and economic organization and experience, climate, access to technology, and what religion is believed. The emotions and ideas that music expresses, the situations in which music is played and listened to, and the attitudes towards music players and composers all vary between regions and periods. Music history is a distinct subfield of musicology and history which studies music, particularly Western art music, from a chronological perspective. Well, we can make a list of eras of music and its types. So eras of music: prehistoric music, ancient music, biblical period, early music. Then Western art music is medieval music, Renaissance music, Baroque music, classical music era, romantic music, 20th and 21st century music. And here you can see the music timeline. 18,000 BC, the bones of a woolly mammoth were used to make a musical instrument in Ukraine. 4000 BC, flutes and harps played in Egypt. 2000 BC, the first song was written in cuneiform in Mesopotamia. 850 BC, polyphony begins in church choirs, interweaving many different vocal melodies simultaneously. 800 BC, choral music develops in Greece. Musicians called rhapsodes travel across cities. 600 BC, Indian music, the veena appears. It is the ancestors of hollow instruments. 1880, Renaissance, violin is made in Italy. 1580, Renaissance violin is made in Italy. 1898, the first opera is produced. 1685, Bach and Handel, composers of the Baroque period, are born. 1750, the classical period begins, in which Mozart, Beethoven, and Haydn holds sway. This period influenced instrumental music. 1780, Romantic period begins. Music is now lavish and passionate with startling keys. Wagner and Chopin belong to this era. In 1952, the electric guitar spurs the popularity of rock music. So, what is next? Actually, this question will be always open because a new era borns new music. In conclusion of our webinar, I'd like to thank all of you for your attention. Goodbye.